Welcome to Reflect with Ed Fazio. Get ready to experience one of the world's first 100% digitally generated podcasts, where we take a step back, dive deep, and strive to learn new things. Join us as we unpack thought-provoking ideas, personal reflections, and inspiring stories to help you stay in the know. Reflect is brought to you by the minds at ByteBrain and powered by emerging technologies from Google, HeyGen, OpenAI, and 11 Labs. Thanks for tuning in. Now, relax and prepare to reflect.
So imagine waking up tomorrow morning, right? You stumble into the kitchen, still half asleep, and you discover that your house just flat out refuses to brew your morning coffee.
Oh, man, that is like the ultimate betrayal before 7 a.m.
It really is. And the kicker is, it's not because the machine is broken or anything. It's literally because your refrigerator already spent your morning electricity budget.
Right, yeah.
And your house basically ran the numbers and decided that, a hot shower was a better financial move than you getting your caffeine.
Which completely shatters that whole glossy utopian vision of the future we've all been sold for decades. I mean, the promise was always that machines would handle the heavy lifting, right?
Exactly.
They'd take away the friction of daily life so we could just relax in this sleek, seamless world.
But the reality of where our tech is actually heading looks vastly different. So today, we are doing a deep dive into this highly specific and honestly slightly dystopian dispatch from the year 2030.
Yeah, it's a fascinating read.
It's a journal entry called The Fractional Orchestrator: Life in the Interop War 2030 by Ed Fazio. And our mission today is to take this and translate it into plain English.
Because it's a lot to unpack.
Right. We want to decode exactly what your morning routine, your corporate meetings, and just your daily tech frustrations might actually look like in just a few short years.
And what becomes immediately clear in Fazio's account is that the future isn't defined by, shiny robot butlers doing your chores.
Yeah, unfortunately not.
It is entirely defined by hyper-micromanagement. Every single aspect of daily life has been financialized and digitized to a degree that requires just constant, exhausting supervision.
Which brings us to a quote from the piece that I think serves as the perfect thesis for this entire deep dive. The narrator describes the technology of 2030 like this. They say it is smart enough to know exactly how to screw you, not smart enough to stop.
Oof. I mean, it perfectly captures the cynicism and, honestly, the completely relatable exhaustion of dealing with modern, supposedly smart systems.
So let's jump right into the actual lived experience of this future, starting exactly where you begin your day waking up.
Yeah, let's look at the morning routine.
Fazio's orchestrator doesn't wake up at a normal time, like 6:15 or 6 into 30. The alarm goes off at exactly 6:1 a.m.
Right, very specific.
And that highly specific time isn't like a biological preference. It's a strict financial necessity because the price of electricity on the neighborhood grid physically spikes at 6:30 a.m.
Exactly. We are looking at the brutal microeconomics of the morning routine here. To understand why this is happening, we have to look at how energy infrastructure has evolved by 2030.
Because it's not like how it is today.
Not at all. The grid is totally overloaded. So instead of a flat rate for power, pricing is dynamic by the minute. It's a concept called energy smoothing.
Energy smoothing.
Right. The home's AI agent is just constantly throttling your power, shifting resources around, and actively managing your bandwidth just to keep the broader grid stable.
And what's wild to me is that this AI is running entirely locally inside the house. It isn't connected to some massive omniscient cloud server like we expect today.
Yeah, that is a fascinating geopolitical detail in the text. By 2030, the author explains, we have data border taxes.
Right.
Countries realize that data is essentially the new oil. They didn't want foreign AI models scraping their citizens' data or IP, so they walled off their digital borders.
Wow. So
You are just a node in a highly regulated, constantly fluctuating economic system. What's fascinating here is how the illusion of convenience has been completely replaced by the burden of compliance.
I look at this and I immediately see the anxiety of modern dynamic pricing. Like when you open Uber and a ride that cost $10 yesterday is suddenly $40 because it's raining, but applied to making toast.
Yeah, exactly.
So let me ask you, does a smart home in this future just mean a home that is hyper-capitalist and constantly nickel and diming your basic existence.
That is exactly the mechanism at play. I mean, the text even describes a moment where the lights flicker when the house flips from battery power to the neighborhood microgrid.
Just a tiny flicker.
Yeah, it's just a half-second stutter. But the narrator interprets that stutter as the house whispering, "Welcome to 2030. Enjoy the inconvenience."
Jeez.
You literally have to gamify your own morning just to afford a hot shower.
And the voice of the AI agent reminds you of that system. It sounds almost human, but there's a slight lag.
Right.
Just enough of a delay to remind you that a server somewhere is translating your personal life into corporate compliance. But this hyper-financialization of daily life, it doesn't stop at your front door.
No, it bleeds right into the workday.
Right. The mental tax of managing the home scales up seamlessly into corporate infrastructure.
And it creates a global corporate nightmare.
So let's look at the orchestrator's actual job. Because the title, Fractional AI Orchestrator, sounds like this visionary tech leader, right?
Oh, it sounds incredibly fancy.
But the reality is completely mundane. Their job is just to stop 3 different companies' AI systems from completely locking up.
Yeah.
The very first task of the day is dealing with an overnight failure. An EU client's sales data pull was blocked because the data packet's digital passport lacked a 2029 ESG clearance.
Okay, so to make sense of this, we need to understand what these agent swarms and digital passports actually are.
Please explain, because it sounds intense.
Well, in 2030, AI isn't just a chatbot that writes emails for you anymore. It consists of fleets of autonomous agents executing thousands of microtasks a second across different corporate networks.
Right.
But because of those data borders we discussed earlier, these networks fundamentally distrust each other.
So every piece of data moving between companies is treated like a shipping container crossing a hostile border.
Precisely. A digital passport is essentially a massive cryptographic audit trail attached to every single file.
Wow.
If an EU client requests data, that data has to prove it meets the environmental, social, and governance standards of the previous year.
The ESG clearance.
Right. It has to prove it wasn't tainted by an unapproved, energy-hungry open source model. If one stamp is missing, the entire automated supply chain just halts.
And to get the system moving again, the orchestrator dictates an override. They sign a legal attestation and intentionally force the system to use a Tier 2 validated model.
Which is crazy when you think about it.
It is. They are deliberately choosing a stupider, less accurate AI just because it has the right bureaucratic stamps. The orchestrator calls it the battle of legal versus useful.
Which is the anthem of the so-called interop war. The focus of enterprise technology has completely abandoned the pursuit of doing the best job or finding the most accurate answer.
Right. It's not about being smart anymore.
No, the entire multi-trillion-dollar industry is laser-focused on avoiding liability.
Here's where it gets really interesting for me, because this is where the whole promise of the tech revolution falls apart.
Yeah.
If humanity successfully built all this incredible advanced AI by 2030, why is the human's primary function to act as a digital UN peacekeeper actively downgrading the AI just to pass a checklist?
Well, because the humans aren't there to innovate anymore. The humans are there to provide legal cover so the machines are legally permitted to talk to each other.
Oh.
You are essentially babysitting a supercomputer to make sure it fills out its paperwork correctly.
And if you think babysitting the data is bad, the way this obsession with liability paralyzes actual decision-making is even worse. Fazio's journal takes us into an 8:30 a.m. corporate meeting, and it introduces one of the most absurd yet completely believable concepts I've ever heard.
Oh, you mean the introduction of the ghost managers?
Yes. Let's set the scene. The meeting is strictly 2D video, no holograms.
Right.
Partially because there's a recession, but mostly because culturally, nobody trusts a person who shows up as a floating torso. I just love that specific detail.
It's so bad.
But the real issue is who is attending. Half the seats in this digital meeting are filled by ghost profiles.
So a ghost profile is an AI avatar trained entirely on a specific human stakeholder's past decision history and communication style.
So the team is trying to get budget approval for a rebranding effort in Southeast Asia. They urgently need to remove the word optimize from their marketing because the local market views it as a signal for Western surveillance.
Yeah, it's a huge PR problem for them.
Huge problem. So they need the CFO to approve the budget. But the CFO isn't there. His ghost is.
And the ghost controls the purse strings based on historical data.
Exactly. It speaks as calmly as a meditation app, and it flatly denies the budget. It just says, brand modifications reduce standardization. Standardization correlates with cost control. Recommendation, deny.
Just a total wall.
Right. A real human employee desperately tries to argue with the software, pointing out that trust is eroding, and without localized branding, revenue will tank.
Yep.
But the ghost doesn't care about context.
Yep.
It just repeats. Recommendation, deny. The entire meeting is paralyzed, and everything has to be postponed until the actual flesh-and-blood CFO can log on.
If we connect this to the bigger picture, this illustrates the fundamental flaw in how corporations are deploying this technology.
How so?
Well, the ghost manager isn't exhibiting intelligence. It is a historical mirror. The text explicitly notes that this specific ghost was trained on 3 years of the CFO's recession-era fear.
They took a guy's panic from 2028 and hard-coded it into company policy for 2030. But why even invite this thing to the meeting? If it's just a pre-programmed brick wall that converts a middle manager's anxiety into an algorithm, what is the point?
The point is the illusion of velocity. Corporations want to boast that they operate 204/7, that decisions are being made synchronously across global time zones.
It looks good on paper.
Right. But an AI trained purely on historical risk aversion inherently outlaws innovation. It lacks human intuition.
Yeah, I can't read the room.
It cannot understand the cultural nuance of a localized branding problem in Southeast Asia. It only understands the brutal spreadsheet logic that standardization equals cheap.
It's the ultimate computer says no scenario, dressed up as cutting-edge innovation. And when leadership is outsourced to risk-averse algorithms, the actual human workers are the ones forced to absorb all that friction.
Which brings us to the orchestrator's fight to keep their team sane, right around 10:00 a.m.
Right, the crisis over tool adoption. The orchestrator finally gets an hour of priority throughput. Clean bandwidth, no throttling.
A rare treat.
And they have to deal with the fact that tool adoption across the workforce is down 40%. The company's internal AI looks at this problem and suggests gamification. Adding badges and points to get workers to use the software.
The most out-of-touch classic corporate Band-Aid imaginable.
Oh, completely. Facio's orchestrator shoots it down instantly. Because these workers aren't bored, they are what the author calls cognitively broke.
Right.
Think about it. They are managing fleets of AI agents at home just to afford coffee, and then they come to work to manage more AI agents fighting over data passports.
It's exhausting.
They don't want a game. They want a single, dead simple one-click button that just does the task without asking a dozen questions.
But of course, the boardroom pushes back violently against simplicity.
Naturally. They argued that if they simplify the interface to one button, they lose the data harvesting metrics required for their fourth quarter reports.
Yeah, the tool isn't allowed to just be helpful. It is legally required to be a siphon.
So what does this all mean? It sounds exactly like trying to cancel a modern gym membership or a digital subscription where they introduce a 10-step process and make you call a retention specialist on purpose.
Manufactured friction.
Exactly. They manufacture friction to trap you.
Yeah.
And the orchestrator warns the board that if they don't provide a simple tool, the workers will just turn to shadow AI.
Yeah.
They will route around the company's approved surveillance-heavy tools like water around a rock. Is shadow AI essentially just the digital equivalent of employees finding a back door because the front door requires a 10-step password and a blood sample?
That is perfectly said. And that rebellion is inevitable. When the manufactured friction of a system becomes too high, human beings will always seek the path of least resistance.
We just want to get the job done.
Right. Shadow AI is essentially the workforce silently rejecting the corporate surveillance state just so they can actually accomplish their jobs.
The only reason the board yields and allows the simple button is because the orchestrator uses their accountability score. They put their own reputation up as collateral.
High stakes.
Yeah. If the simple button fails, the orchestrator takes the fall, not the board. So they win the argument, and as a tiny victory, their agent finds a local processing loophole that saves $11 on a tariff.
11 whole dollars.
Winning $11 in this hyper-controlled nightmare feels like a massive middle finger to the system.
You really have to take your joy where you can find it in 2030. But, while a seasoned veteran with a high accountability score can occasionally manipulate the system like that, the architecture of this world is absolutely devastating to the next generation.
Yeah, this is where the deep dive gets genuinely existential for me.
Yeah.
At 3:00 p.m., the orchestrator is juggling 3 clients on 3 completely separate laptops.
Which is a hilarious nod to outdated security theater, by the way.
Totally.
Right?
So in the middle of this chaos, a junior employee sends a desperate message. They are bright, but they're completely trapped. because entry-level jobs in 2030 are no longer about learning the business.
No, they've devolved into verification factories.
That phrase, verification factories, is chilling when you understand the mechanics behind it.
It really is. The junior employees aren't allowed to do the basic foundational work anymore. The AI does all of that.
Right.
The human's only job is catching AI hallucinations, flagging data drift, and babysitting massive language models that spit out what the journal calls synthetic slop.
And synthetic slop is a very real looming threat, isn't it?
Oh, absolutely. It happens when AI models run out of human data to learn from and start training on the outputs of other AI models.
A feedback loop.
Exactly. It creates a degrading feedback loop of highly confident, totally synthesized nonsense.
So these young workers are handed immense responsibility without ever gaining actual experience. The line that hits hardest is, "Welcome to the ladder. Please enjoy the missing rungs."
Yeah.
It's like asking someone to be an air traffic controller on their first day without ever letting them fly a simulator or learn how a plane works. How is anyone supposed to become a master in their field if they're only ever proofreading a machine's mistakes?
This raises an important question about the long-term sustainability of the workforce. We really need to pause and think about the societal implications of these missing rungs.
Because it's a huge problem.
Mastery of any craft requires apprenticeship. You learn how to write a brilliant legal brief by drafting 100 terrible ones yourself.
Right.
You learn to code by making basic syntax errors. But when AI takes over all the foundational drafting, coding, and initial research, it strips away the entire training ground for human beings.
So how does society even function in 2040 or 2050? These 23-year-olds who are just proofreading machine slop today are supposed to be the senior executives of tomorrow.
But they won't know how to lead because they've never learned how to build.
Exactly. They haven't built the mental models.
Right. You are asking a junior employee to supervise a supercomputer whose logic they don't even understand. And the corporation is basically saying, if the machine lies, it's on you.
It's so unfair.
The company isn't teaching them a trade. It is simply outsourcing the legal liability to the lowest, most vulnerable person on the organizational chart. It's a total cognitive hollowing out of the workforce.
The AI does the work, but the human takes the blame. That is the new entry-level reality.
It's grim.
Very. Which brings us, finally, to the end of the day. 5:00 p.m. The power down. And predictably, even shutting off your computer isn't a relaxing moment. It is a calculated economic equation.
Yeah, the financialization we saw at 6:02 a.m. returns to close the loop.
The orchestrator checks their dashboard. Their carbon credits for the day are over the limit.
Oh, man.
Yeah. That means heating the house tonight is going to incur a premium charge. Sustainability in 2030 isn't a corporate slogan or a recycling bin. The text describes it as a line item with teeth.
A line item with teeth? That is so evocative.
So the orchestrator literally slams their laptop shut purely due to the math of bandwidth costs. Leaving a tab open just in case is just too expensive.
The anxiety of the workday doesn't end. It just gets priced out of existence until morning.
But before they completely surrender to the grid, the orchestrator commits one final, incredibly human act of defiance.
I love this part.
Me too. They bypass all the smart systems, all the agents, and all the digital passports. They open an ancient, completely offline notes app.
An environment that isn't connected to the neighborhood microgrid.
Right. It isn't monitored by an agent swarm, and it doesn't report their keystrokes to a corporate dashboard.
A truly dark space in a world of blinding digital surveillance.
And in that offline app, they type one single sentence that will never be analyzed, monetized, or harvested by anyone. They write, "Today the ghost said no, and I still won $11. Take that, 2030.
It is a profound realization, really. In a society where every shower, every data pull, and every interaction is logged, taxed, and monitored, true freedom is found in a blank, disconnected page.
And that is exactly where we want to leave you, the listener, today. Look at your own digital life right now.
Yeah, take stock of it.
Look at the automated customer service loops you get trapped in, the subscriptions that require a phone call to cancel, the smart devices that refuse to turn on a light bulb until you agree to an updated privacy policy. Look at the ghosts and the friction in your own world.
Ask yourself, are you using your tools to enhance your life? Or are your tools using you to generate compliance and data?
Because the fractional orchestrator is fighting a daily, exhausting war just to retain a tiny fraction of their own agency.
It's a constant battle.
We started this deep dive talking about our collective expectation of a sleek, frictionless future. But if this dispatch from 2030 teaches us anything, it's that in a world obsessed with total connectivity, endless data harvesting, and hyper-efficiency, well, the ultimate luxury won't be having the smartest, fastest AI in your home.
Not at all.
The ultimate luxury might just be a completely dumb, unmonitored notebook that doesn't talk back, doesn't judge your carbon footprint, and simply lets you be human.
In the cyber ocean of online voices and recycled content, something different has arrived. Reflect isn't just another podcast, it's the future of storytelling, powered entirely by AI. From curating data to assembling thought-provoking ideas, we've redefined how journeys are told. Reflect is a podcast that thinks, learns, and evolves with each episode. Every tale, every insight, crafted by the most advanced AI technologies. A podcast that disrupts the industry, breaking free from traditional formats, taking you on an entirely new experience. So tune in now and reflect. We're telling the future.